All right, about 10 years ago, I had a call with the owner of the company that I was working for at the time, developing their e-learning program. I was almost in tears saying, I don't know if I can do this job. I think you need to find somebody else. And she asked me to write her an email of all the different tasks that I thought I was supposed to be doing in the role. And so I wrote that out. It was about 40 different tasks that I thought I should be doing. And she replied back saying 3. I only want you to focus on number 3. And then once you do that, we can start looking at some of the other things. And about 5 years later, we had 26,000 users on our platform. We were partnered with some provincial organizations, and we were producing training for some Fortune 500 companies. So this is a real life example, a real life tool of how I now prioritize my to-do list. So I'm going to start in a weird place. I want you to have a deep, deep understanding that prioritization stems from realizing that you are finite. You have a limited amount of time, you have a limited amount of energy. If you feel that you are infinite, every time that you complete a task on your to-do list, it may feel like you're heading towards your business goals, but in reality, you look more like this person. It's kind of like a drunk guy at a bar hitting on a girl. He thinks he's being super smooth, but in reality, he's just kind of slurring his words and looking like an idiot. What I've done is I've actually printed out my goals for this particular YouTube channel, and I'm going to work through this as an example so you can see how it helped refine what things that I should be focusing on to hit the goals that I have for this YouTube channel. So my business goal is I want to provide unique value, advice, and education to creators, business leaders, and entrepreneurs that will allow me to hit the AdSense threshold by March 31st, 2021. So I know by March 31st, 2021 whether or not I've hit it or not. And that's called a SMART goal: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. There's a ton of literature around why those are helpful. I think there's some new ones out called like clear goals that might be of interest for you to do some research on. But then I have my to-do list for this particular goal. So I only want to focus on the important things. So what I'm going to do is a first pass through this task list and see if I can just cross out anything that won't actually further me in my business goal. I've crossed out one thing that I don't need to do. Now what I'm going to do is, beside each of my tasks, I'm going to write clarity, I'm going to write permission, and timeline. So what we're going to do for each of these columns now is have a green, yellow, red type system. So for clarity, for it to be green, I'm going to know exactly what I want to do. I'm going to know the who, what, when, where, why. If I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I feel that it's in the right direction, I'm going to put that as a yellow. If after I get some clarity or do the work and decide it's not a good idea, then I'll put it as red. If we move over to permission, for permission to be green, that means it's solely up to you, or you have the permission, you're able to go. For it to be yellow, you need to either ask somebody, maybe a boss or an owner or a manager, or maybe you just need to check your bank account to see if you can actually afford what you're trying to do. So that's permission there. And then timeline is a green, you have to do it this year or whatever your timeline might be to make sure that your business is successful. If you're like, I know this is necessary, but I don't actually need to do it this year, or it's not as important as some of the other things, put it as a yellow. And if you don't really need to do it at all, put it as a red, because why would you do it if it's not actually pushing you towards your goals? So for each one of these tasks, what I'm going to do is put a green, yellow, or red sticker. So I've got my stickers here. Now you can use a marker, or if you're doing this in like an Excel sheet, something like that, might just put green, yellow, red in the boxes. You can do it a bunch of different ways. I'm just doing stickers because I think it's a better visual for you guys on YouTube. For the first thing, format university lectures for YouTube delivery and design a slide deck. I know exactly what I'm thinking for that, so I'm going to put green as clarity. Permission. It's solely up to me. I don't need to ask for permission to anybody to do this. So that's a green. And timeline. I need to do this to hit my goal there. Number 2, understand the copyright and fair use. I don't know exactly what that looks like, so I'm going to have to put a yellow for clarity. I don't need any permission to do this tasks, and the timeline, I need to do it again before I launch everything. Create a podcast for lecture distribution. Yeah, I know what that looks like, so I'm going to put a green there. I don't need permission. I know how to do it. Timeline, I think I want to do it. I don't think it'll be too much. Get a podcast lecture intro song. I know exactly kind of the vibe that I want, so I got some clarity on that. I don't know if G will do it. Put a yellow there. Timeline, I want to do that for the launch of the podcast, so I want to get that there. Incorporate my comedy writing skills. I don't know exactly what that will look like in a lecture format. I don't really need permission from anybody to do that, so I'm going to put that as a green. Timeline, it doesn't really matter if I do it right away because I think I will be providing enough value to hit my goal that without having to forcing it to be funny. Incorporate fun midterm projects. Yeah, I don't really know what that looks like yet, so I'm going to put that as a yellow. Permission, I don't really need anyone to tell me what to do there. And then green here, timeline. I need to figure this out because if I want to do it from day one, I need to figure this out. So I'm gonna have that. Get a basic lighting setup. I kind of know what I want. One of those Aperture 120Ds. Permission, yeah, I need to check my bank account to see if it's worth it. And timeline, I don't think it's a big deal for me to do it or not. So I'm gonna put that as there. Keep a list of topics on my notes app. I think all that is green. So what this has done is I now kind of have this like color code. But what I'm going to ask you to do, and I kind of ran out of space here. I shouldn't have done this. Actually, what I'll do is I'll get another piece of paper. I didn't really plan this out too well, did I? All right, so I added columns next step and order. And what we're going to do now is interpret all of these green and yellow dots. If it's all green, what I'm going to do is find those and just put go for it. Nothing is stopping me from doing these. So do I see another one? Go for it. I have another one down here. Go or it. It's supposed to be a no. Now what I'm going to do is kind of just look for these timelines. And any one that has a yellow timeline, I'm just going to put do later. Because we've discovered that these aren't that important. And then I'm going to look to the next column of permission. And so anytime I see permission that doesn't already have a do later, I'm going to put ask. And then the last one is clarity. So what I'm going to do here is just going to say book time. And what this means is I want to book myself some time on my calendar to really think through and plan what this looks like. So these two here, I'm going to book some time. All right, now that I kind of have a general sense of what I need to do for each task, I'm then gonna prioritize them in an order. Now you might be thinking, Tyler, number one will be all your go for it's, right? And I would say no. I think what we need to focus on is getting the easy ones out of the way. So asking my buddy G, that's fairly easy. It's a text, it's a phone call, it's an email. So I'm gonna put anything that's an ask, I only have one here, as a number one. The next thing is book time. So I'm gonna make sure that it gets on my calendar. So I'm just gonna book time and I'm gonna put these book times as order number 2. And then anything that's after that, 3, go for these at any point. And then the do laters, I have 4. So I now have the order of what I should be doing. So I'm gonna ask G, maybe right after this call. Actually, let me put it up here so you can see my janky little setup here. So I'm gonna ask G, I'm going to book some time for the things there. After I do those, I'm gonna go for the things that I need to go for. And then the ones that are due later, then we can go there. So now my task list, going back to the original thing, will look less like me just kind of bouncing around and hopefully more strategic for me to head towards my business goals. One last thing that I want to do to this to-do list is called a passion sticker. So I have a blue sticker that you can see here that incorporate my comedy and writing skills as a do later. If you have a passion towards a particular task that you want to do and you'd be super excited about doing, I'm gonna put a blue dot on it. And that's gonna tell me that I'm giving myself permission to maybe focus on that. Because sometimes the things that we're most passionate about give us the motivation and the excitement to do some of the other things. So don't neglect your passion in doing some of this as well. So even though incorporating comedy and writing and all of that was a do later, I've kind of trumped that with a passion card. And you can see behind me that I did this with a client face-to-face, and it turned out fairly well. They were super happy kind of and confident knowing what they were supposed to do next. So give it a shot yourself. I've linked down below a bit of a worksheet and a bit of an instructional. If you do this, tag me on Instagram or Twitter. I want to see what your particular action items looks like. Harvard Business Review came out with a few articles about this. I'm going to link those down below as well. And also Visualize Value, a pretty unique Instagram and Twitter channel, has some visualizations. Maybe I'll put them up here that kind of explain this as well. So go give them a follow. And hopefully this has been helpful in narrowing down your to-do list and you won't be crying like I was.
Yeah, my name is Tyler, but I've been told many times that I don't actually look like a Tyler. I've been told I look more like a Jake or a Josh, somewhere in the J range of the alphabet. Jamal is another one that I get pretty regularly. But I can see what they're